We're live.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order, this being the Planning Committee, Thursday, October 16th. Clerk, can you confirm that the roll call has been taken? Through the chair, roll has been taken. Very good. Now we do have members of the committee, any declaration of conflict of interest? Seeing none. We do have a statutory hearing that'll be handled separately, and there's no items for consideration really other than the minutes. Would anybody want to separate the minutes for discussion purposes? Seeing none, can I get a mover and a seconder to put the minutes on the floor? That being the minutes from the September 11th, 2025 meeting of the Planning Committee. Moved by Councillor Van Tilburg, seconded by Councillor Sless. Madam Clerk, we'll proceed with the vote. The minutes carry on a recorded vote of 4-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Sokoli, Sless, Carpenter, and Van Tilburg. Very good. Okay, so the moment we are probably all here for, with that being the public meeting on today's agenda. This public meeting is held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. The purpose of the hearing is to discuss the planning application and to hear from the public either in support or against the application. At the end of the public meeting, the committee will pass a recommendation which will be considered by City Council at the end of the month. The name of anyone who speaks in regards to this item will appear within the meeting agenda, or the meeting minutes rather. Anyone wishing notice of further proceedings regarding the application should provide their name and address to the clerk's office. We ask that members of the public in attendance today speak only to the item that we're discussing. The applicant will speak first, followed by municipal staff. They'll give their presentation, and then anyone will have 10 minutes to provide their feedback to the committee. As a reminder, we're going to keep this polite, and we're going to maintain decorum today here in council chambers. All right, so without further ado, I will call up the applicant. We have Rashika Angrish from the Angrish Group. As a reminder, you will have 10 minutes. That's inclusive of questions from this committee.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Ruchika Angrish from the Angrish Group. I am representing the owners of this property for a minor zoning bylaw amendment that is in front of you. We're seeking support from the committee with respect to this zoning bylaw amendment application. I have a short presentation. I just need to figure out. Okay, perfect. The property is located on the north side of Dufferin Avenue on the west of St. Paul. It is approximately 734 square meters with a frontage of 18.29 on Dufferin and about 40 meters on St. Paul Avenue. It's currently under renovations with upper floor being renovated as a dwelling unit. The lands are fully serviced by municipal water, storm, and sanitary services. It is also on a transit corridor. The property is designated neighborhoods, residential specifically, in the City of Brantford official plan. Neighborhoods, this designation focuses mainly on residential land uses, but it also permits community facilities, parks, institutional uses, and small-scale retail and service commercial uses that support local residents. Neighborhood supporting uses within the residential designations, as I mentioned, are permitted, which includes healthcare offices and clinics. The official plan provides a certain criteria for these supporting neighborhood uses, which includes they to be located on ground floor, maintaining the residential uses above, used to be considered as a small scale, generally with a gross floor area of less than 300 square meters. Parking and servicing is available and provided and located generally at the intersections of a collector and arterial roads. The property is currently zoned neighborhood low rise in the zoning bylaw, which allows a range of residential uses. So we are here today with a minor zoning bylaw amendment to allow a medical clinic on the property. This is not a permitted use in the neighborhood low-rise residential zone category. And that's the reason why we are here for a site-specific use, which is being proposed. The owner currently operates a medical clinic, Turning Point Counseling Center, which is located on Grant Avenue in Brantford, and is going to continue the business from that location. This location will be secondary to the already existing location on Grant Avenue. The site will be operated from 11 a.m. to approximately 7 p.m. with only one client visiting the therapist at a time. Generally, 4 to 6 therapists attend on a rotating shifts throughout the week. So with respect to the proposal, we're converting the main floor and the basement of the building into medical offices for counseling and psychotherapy business. One residential unit will continue to be maintained on the upper floor. There are no changes to the exterior of the building that are being proposed or contemplated at this time or in near future. Only internal renovations are required to establish the offices for this use. The use is a small scale with the gross floor area of 200 square meters, meeting the official plan policies. The parking is provided on site. There's no variation that is being requested. So an open house was held on July 28th. There were several comments that have been received from the residents. We have reviewed all the comments and modified our proposal with special provisions in the proposed zoning bylaw to address public concerns. The special provision limits the use only to a psychotherapeutic clinic and removes all concerns related to the range of medical uses that were raised through the various letters that have been received. A new definition defining the medical clinic, scoping it down to a psychotherapy, is also included in the proposed draft bylaw. The use is limited to basement and main floor only in accordance with the provisions of the official plan. The residential uses will continue to be provided on the upper floor. Through the circulation of this application, no comments or concerns were received by transportation or engineering staff from the city. So all, as I mentioned, all parking has been provided on site. There is a surplus parking space which has been provided. A dedicated parking space for the residential unit will be included, and an accessible parking space has also been provided. The revised bylaw, which has the original bylaw that was included in the agenda package, noted 150 square meters of the gross floor area. However, through various discussions, it was noted that that was an error on our part. And the maximum gross floor area of the main floor and the basement total is 200 square meters. So we're requesting that the amended bylaw that has been included with your package be considered. There were concerns about the renovations are already ongoing. I would like to make a note that the renovations for the upper floor are ongoing, and there has been no permit that has been issued for the main floor and the basement. We are seeking support from this committee. In closing, the provincial policy statement, provincial planning statement, it also promotes diversified economic activities, encouraging compact employment and commercial uses to support resilient communities. Neighborhood supporting uses are permitted in the city's official plan. The conversion of a portion of existing residential building to allow the limited use of a psychotherapy clinic provides not only the employment opportunities, but also meets all the provisions of the official plan. So we're seeking support from this committee. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Rachika. And we do have some questions. Councillor Sless.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for coming this morning. Let me start by saying I certainly endorse and support the type of work that you're proposing to do. My concern is where you're proposing to do it. Had you considered other sites?
Through you, Madam Chair, the property is owned by the owners and they are using their own property. Renting out other locations is not a viable option for businesses these days. And we respect the question, but alternate locations have not been considered because the property is currently owned by them.
Okay. It appears that there's ongoing renovations going on now. Is that to the residential unit or is that to the proposed commercial?
Through Madam Chair, again, it is only for the residential unit. There was a lot of damage that was done by the previous tenants. And there's a lot of cleanup that has been happening and the upper unit is being renovated so that it can be rented out for the residential unit as soon as possible.
Okay. You say the folks that are going to operate the business, do they live in that building?
Through you, Madam Chair, again, no, they don't.
They don't live in that building. Are they currently providing counseling at another location?
Through Madam Chair, yes. They have another location. This is going to be a second location. So their original location is on Grant Avenue.
They have a location on Grant Avenue?
That's correct.
And there's no opportunity to increase the size of that location?
Through you, Madam Chair, as you know, the properties are very limited in size and there's no room for expansion on Grant Avenue.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you. I noticed that you have an accessible parking space. Do you have an elevator for accessibility for the services of clients?
Through you, Madam Chair, sorry, I wasn't able to
Are
understand.
the offices going to be accessible for clients with disabilities?
Through Madam Chair, when we apply for building permit for renovations for the main floor and the basement, yes, there will be accessible features that will need to be included as part of that permit.
You know what those features will be?
Providing ramps, wider doors, anything that is considered accessible under building code.
Anything that meets our accessibility guidelines, I mean?
Through Madam Chair, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further councillors looking to, so if Councillor McCreary, if you'd like to speak, we're gonna have to add some additional time. We've just exceeded the 10 minutes.
So moved.
So moved, an additional 5 minutes, seconded by Councillor Van Tilburg. I don't think we need to call the vote unless I see anybody in opposition to that. Okay, you have the floor.
Thank you. So the premises that you'll be operating the business from are approximately 2,000 square feet. Is that what I heard?
Through Madam Chair, it's 200 square meters. I have to do the math.
We'll just agree that it's about 2,000 square feet for those of us of a certain age. Could you explain to me how that space will be apportioned? I think what I heard was you would only be entertaining one client at a time in the building. Is that correct?
Through Madam Chair, I do have Jody Brown and she can explain a little bit more about how the therapist will come in and client to client basis.
So there is actually going to be about 4 therapists working there. They work different hours. So it won't be just one client in the clinic at one time. Many times there is, but it just depends on the day because they also see clients online as well as in person. So it'll be rotating the therapists with different hours, having clients coming in at that time.
So 2,000 square feet divided by 4 clients at a time is still a pretty generous use of space. Could you indicate the makeup of the interior space? You'd have a lobby, a waiting room, some individual offices, washrooms.
On the second level is the main area that we're going to be using for the therapy clinic. Downstairs, we are going to have sensory space for children for their therapy. So that's more of a wide open space with like areas for them to move around, do arts and crafts and that type of thing. And so it'll be mainly the second floor, and there will be a washroom there and a small wait area for the clients to come in if their therapist isn't ready to take them in for their session.
Are there any ancillary services that you anticipate retailing things, for instance,
No, I don't do it. I don't,
providing drug therapy?
no,
You don't have any medical doctor on staff?
I do not have a doctor on staff.
Okay. So it was mentioned during the presentation that renting space in a zone already zoned for this is not feasible. Could you explain why that is?
The cost.
Have you considered consolidating all your operations on one third site?
I have considered that, yes.
And,
Financially, it does not make sense.
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
I do have one question myself, and it's pertaining to the licenses of the counselors that will be operating in this building or would propose to be. Are they all psychotherapists, or are there different levels of therapy being provided?
No, everybody works under the umbrella of psychotherapy. Some are registered social workers and some are registered psychotherapists. They all hold the same degree and work under the umbrella of psychotherapy and licensures.
And under that license, nobody is able to prescribe any type of
Correct.
narcotic or
That
anything.
nobody is allowed to prescribe. We can provide some levels of assessments, but no prescription and no diagnosis.
And nothing of that nature would be on site.
Exactly, correct.
Thank you very much. Counselor McCreary?
Sorry, one further question. So you offer things like TheraPlay and sand tray therapy. You're not anticipating providing any of these services outdoors, are you?
No,
So that's a guarantee.
that's a guarantee.
There'll be
We,
no children's play area.
for the
outdoors.
safety of the clients while they're there and for the containment of the session, it needs to be in the space that we're doing the work, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions for you. Thank you very much for the presentation. Have a seat. We're going to hear from staff and some people. And then, of course, as you know, you'll have a moment to come back and provide some clarifying remarks. So we will now move forward to the staff presentation on this application. As a reminder, and I believe we have Ashley Timms that's going to be presenting. You also have 10 minutes, and that's inclusive of questions from us at the committee level. Thanks.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sean House. I'm Senior Project Manager in the Development Planning Department. I just wanted to introduce Ashley Timms, our Intermediate Development Planner on this file. It's Ashley's first planning committee with us, but she has been working with us for over a year and has been doing a great job. So just wanted to provide that brief introduction, and go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you, Sean. Good morning, everyone. As noted, I'm Ashley Timms, Intermediate Development Planner with the city and planner on file for this application. As noted and outlined by the agent, the purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to add a medical clinic as an additional permitted use with special provisions within the neighborhood low-rise zone to facilitate the conversion of the basement and ground floor levels of the existing triplex into a psychotherapy clinic. The subject site is located at the corner of Dufferin Avenue and St. Paul Avenue. The subject site is also adjacent to Dufferin Park to the north. Further north of the site is W. Ross Macdonald School. Uses to the south are primarily low-rise dwellings, but do include a mid-rise apartment building. Residential uses to the west and east are primarily single detached dwellings, and further north of the site is Brant Avenue, which contains a variety of uses, including many commercial businesses. This is an image taken from St. Paul Avenue looking west towards the subject site. You can see the existing triplex dwelling, as well as Dufferin Park depicted on the right of the image. This image is taken from Dufferin Avenue looking north towards the subject site. I do want to note that the fencing noted in that image has been demolished. The proposal consists of largely interior changes to convert the ground floor and basement levels of the existing triplex into the psychotherapy clinic. As noted, building permits have been issued for the demolition of the carport and second-story deck and for the renovation of the second-story residential unit, which is intended to remain. A total of 8 parking spaces, including 1 barrier-free space, are provided, and tandem parking is also proposed with the intent of clients parking behind their therapists. As outlined in the staff report, this application is consistent with the Planning Act and provincial planning statement. The subject site is designated residential in the city's official plan. Neighborhood supporting uses are permitted and encouraged within the residential designation. Healthcare offices and clinics are listed as a permitted neighborhood supporting use. In addition, this proposal meets all of the criteria that shall be considered, including that the use is small scale with a total gross floor area of less than 300 square meters, that it contributes to a walkable and complete community, that it's located along the intersection of an arterial and collector road with parking at the rear and side of the property. The subject site is in close proximity and adjacent to active transportation networks and nearby transit routes. The official plan also encourages these uses to be located on the ground floor with residential units above, as is proposed. The subject site is currently zoned neighborhood low-rise in zoning bylaw 124-2024. The zoning amendment proposes to add medical clinic as an additional permitted use. Generally, these applications to add use are considered minor and are typically delegated to the chief planner. As part of the delegation of authority process, councilors may request to elevate applications to planning committee, as was the case in this instance. This provided the applicant and staff with an opportunity to include special provisions to address concerns heard by residents and further align the proposal with the official plan. This application was circulated to all property owners within a 120-meter radius in accordance with the Planning Act. Separate notification was sent for both the neighborhood public meeting and today's planning committee meeting due to the elevation request. The neighborhood meeting was held on July 28th. Numerous residents were in attendance and staff were made aware of petitions at that time. A few key themes were identified, including the broad nature of the medical clinic definition, parking and traffic concerns, and loss of 2 housing units. The net loss of 2 residential units is not anticipated to impact the overall housing landscape in the city. The concerns related to the future use of the property, the broad medical clinic definition, size, and parking were all considered when tailoring these special provisions. Key provisions include scoping the permitted use to a psychotherapy office, providing counseling services, and prescribed mental health treatment as defined by the Psychotherapy Act, as well as adding a maximum size of the practice of 200 square meters of gross floor area, as well as the location of the psychotherapy office on the ground floor and basement levels of the building. The proposed parking is consistent with what is currently required for the triplex, which is 1 parking space per dwelling unit, and 1 parking space per 30 square meters of gross floor area is proposed for the medical clinic use. In conclusion, the application proposes to amend the city's zoning bylaw 124-2024 to permit a medical clinic with special site-specific regulations. It is consistent with the Planning Act and provincial planning statement and conforms to the city's official plan by supporting the creation of complete communities. The proposed medical clinic is envisioned as a neighborhood supporting use in the official plan, and therefore staff recommend approval of the zoning bylaw amendment as outlined in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. We do have Councillor Sless with some questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I view this personally as the thin edge of the wedge, that it's, once you've approved a commercial use now in a residential neighborhood, that there could very well open up a floodgate of other people deciding that perhaps their home might be better suited to be a McDonald's or a Tim Hortons or something else to change the zoning and do what they would like to do with their property. Are there safeguards? Are there rails that will keep that intact?
Through the chair, yes, there are. There are prescribed list of neighborhood supporting use and criteria along with that use related to the size and scale as noted, as well as the types of use that are considered neighborhood supporting use. Healthcare clinics and offices are explicitly stated as permitted neighborhood supporting use within the residential designation. And every application is, of course, evaluated on a case-by-case basis. This application, should it be approved, does not mean that should other applications come through, staff would have the same recommendation.
What would be the process if they want to add additional uses to this property?
Through the chair, it would have to be a similar process as this. They may be able to apply for a minor variance application, but very likely it would be another zoning bylaw amendment application.
If one were to say yes to this, I would view it very difficult to say no to somebody else trying to do something with their property. Is this precedent setting?
Through the chair, again, each application is evaluated on a case-by-case basis. But again, the official plan does envision neighborhood supporting uses as part of the residential designation.
Okay. I've heard that there are 4 therapists going to be working here. How's that enforced? What if 8 show up to work? Is there anything that can be done to control that?
Through the chair, yes, I believe that would come down to by law enforcement as, I don't know if there would be anything to restrict strictly the 8, but it would be caught up in the parking as there wouldn't be enough parking to support the 8 therapists. So if there were more vehicles parked than what was permitted in terms of the tandem spaces, because there's 3 tandem spaces proposed to be provided, that's where it may get caught up.
And through you, Chair, I'd also add that the amount of gross floor area is limited within the zoning as well. So a therapist would require likely more gross floor area than what is permitted in the zoning.
But how would one know if the residential unit upstairs suddenly became offices? How would you know that?
Through you, Chair, I believe that would be complaint-based enforcement.
I see.
Nicole, do you want to add to that? Sorry, through the chair, if I can just add, I would also, that would be regulated through the building department. It would require a building permit similar to the building permits that have been applied. It would not be permitted in zoning, in which case it would be flagged, and then we would see further zoning bylaw amendments or minor variance applications coming forward. So there is a process in place to flag that.
Okay. And then if one wanted to enlarge the existing building, I would presume one would have a process that they would have to go through a public process to put an addition onto the building to expand the business.
Through the chair, that would also be correct. So it would be a very similar process with respect to the application of a building permit. And then depending on the configuration of the site and the configuration of any proposed expansion. And you can see this site doesn't necessarily really warrant an expansion area without eliminating the parking, in which case then we'd be back with further zoning bylaw amendment applications.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And we've just reached our 10 minutes, but I do have a long list of speakers, seeing no objections to adding another 10 minutes to this. Do I see any? All right, we'll move forward. Councillor Van Tilburg.
Yes, it was stated that the loss of 2 housing units has no impact. Are we not in a housing crisis and a housing shortage at present? Is that not what's been on council's agenda for basically the last 6 years?
Through the chair, yes, we are. However, the net loss of the 2 units is not anticipated to create an impact on the overall housing landscape. I do also want to note that nothing would preclude any property owner for that matter to convert what was a triplex into a single family home. That would be well within their right as well.
Certainly, but I would imagine to those families that were living in those two units, it's critical to them. Did we not just on Dufferin just recently end up with a similar situation where housing was to be knocked down? There was two rental units in it, and I believe the community fought, and those units remain within a block or so of where we are.
Through you, Chair, we're not aware of that situation.
I believe it had to deal with knocking the homes down to have provide an entranceway into a city park. Is that correct?
So through the chair to the counselor, I don't recall the specific issue that you're referring to, but I will say that we do have demolition control bylaws in place that do allow for the review of residential units, particularly within certain areas of the city. And I think the comment that staff made with respect to the units was that not that there wouldn't be an impact, but I think planning staff's opinion is that it's a balance between the loss of residential units to specifically in this area with balancing the need for further mental health services also in this community.
Thank you. And once the zoning is changed to medical office, that medical office is then can be any type of medical office, can it not? Is it specific to this?
Through the chair, no, it could not, due to the special provisions limiting the use to a psychotherapy clinic. Only a psychotherapy clinic and those related uses would be permitted.
And how is that enforced?
I believe that would be enforced through licensing and also through complaint-based bylaw.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Tilburg. I think what you're referring to is the $1 Million Walkway, if you remember that. Yeah. And up next, we have Councillor McCreary.
Not sure it was a million. So you're through you to stop. So your answer to Councillor Van Tilburg was quite clear. So if this specific use were enabled today, that means that you couldn't see a subsequent use as a methadone clinic?
Through the chair, that is correct. That's outside of the scope of psychotherapy.
Or an addiction treatment center?
Correct. That would also be outside of the scope.
And what's the specific language that prohibits that we see before us today?
Through the chair, that would be the language in the site specific of this special provision that limits the use to the psychotherapy clinic in accordance with the Psychotherapy Act.
And it would not permit any subsequent commercial use, in as much as this is being renovated to be basically a commercial space?
Through the chair, no, it would only permit the medical clinic scope down to the psychotherapy clinic as outlined in the special provisions.
And in general, our zoning permits ancillary uses. What limitation would there be on ancillary uses for this space?
Through the chair, yes. So the ancillary uses would have to be incidental and secondary to the psychotherapy clinic as the primary use on the property. So it would need to be demonstrated that any ancillary uses that do occur on the property are again incidental and secondary to the primary psychotherapy use.
So retail sales.
Through the chair, I believe that's outside of the scope of psychotherapy.
We do have a number of commercial locations in the city of Brantford whose primary use is warehousing, who also have a retail ancillary use. What would preclude that from happening here?
Through you, Chair, just because the definition is so specific to psychotherapy, and perhaps we can have the applicant help us out on this one too, but I don't believe that retail is a ancillary use to the services that they're providing.
So for instance, you can retail dog treats or cat treats.
So through the chair to the counselor. So the instance that you're referring to when you're suggesting about the industrial uses where we have ancillary, those are instances where they may open up a small retail side store where they're actually offering the product that they're manufacturing to the public, right? So we see that sometimes in a very popular shoe brand. They often have a side store available to their customers, and so on and so forth. With this particular use, no, there really is no ancillary use to a psychotherapy office. They're not opening up a side business selling t-shirts to their psychotherapy business, right? So that's not going to be permitted in this area. There'd be no random ancillary uses to a psychotherapy. So that would eliminate things like, and I know you were being facetious, but things like dog treats and those. There's no connection there between the primary use on the property, right? So this is very different than those types of ancillary uses that we see in other commercial areas or industrial type areas.
Thank you.
Counselor Carpenter, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So staff, in this staff report, staff are recommending approval of this application. So if the planning committee turns this application down, could the applicant then go to LPAT looking for approval? And if they did that, could they change the application to include more uses?
Through the chair, yes, they could appeal the decision today, if it should be a refusal, and bring it to the OLT.
So that when they applied to LPAT, so this would go to LPAT, we would have to hire our own lawyer and our own planner to argue our case because our planning department has recommended this, right?
Through you, Chair, at this point, we would defer to our legal department, but they're not present. But yeah, so in my understanding,
That's the
how
process.
similar files have been forwarded.
And with the application to LPAT, they could expand their use from psychotherapy to other uses?
Yeah, from what I understand, that's correct. It would be, treated
That's
as a
how the
file
process
de novo and a new file at that point.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. And I'm just looking, seeing no one else, I did have one question for myself. Out in my neighborhood, I see these little, I would call them commercial uses in a residential home. So for example, there's a chiropractor office, a nail salon, things like that. Can you explain what makes this different from that? Is it the square footage? I believe you touched on it with Councilor McCray, but is it just square footage being used for the commercial space exceeds the residential space? Is that my understanding?
Through the chair, yes, that would be correct. This application is outside of the scope of a live work dwelling or a home occupation, due to the size and scale just being a little larger than what would typically be considered a home occupation, as well as home occupations involve the owner living and working in the building. And in this case, other therapists and practitioners will be working there.
So just say the individual who owned this house turned, so the upstairs is residential. What if the basement became residential and then the main floor was psychotherapy? Would that then alter the permissible use for this area?
Through the chair, in this case, no, it would not.
Okay. Very good. No loopholes. Okay. All right. Seeing no further speakers, that will conclude the staff presentation portion of this. We'll now move forward to the public portion of the statutory public hearing. So I do have a list of people that were nice enough to reach out and let us know that they were going to speak. But that is absolutely not necessary. So anybody in this room and anybody participating online will have an opportunity to speak regardless of whether they have registered in advance. So I'm going to go to my list and then I will open it up to anyone who would like to speak. Okay, so I have first Katie Miller, and I believe I saw Katie Miller online.
Katie, if you can please accept the prompt on your screen, you'll rejoin as a panel.
All right. Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Katie.
Okay, thank you. Let me just get this computer going here. All right.
So Katie, I'll have you state your name and address, and then you'll have 10 minutes to present, and that'll be inclusive of questions from our committee.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Katie Miller and my address is 48 Lincoln Ave. I'd like to just start by saying good morning to members of the Planning Committee and to the neighbors. As I said, my name's Katie Miller and I'm a longtime resident of the Homedale neighborhood. I grew up on Chestnut Ave, just around the corner from Dufferin. And I want to begin by saying that this is not about opposing mental health services. I'm a mental health coach myself, and I fully support Mrs. Brown's business. I think all of us in the room can recognize the value and importance of mental health care services in our community. Our concern as residents is simply about location. Dufferin Ave, as you know, has been a residential street for over 100 years. It's lined with heritage homes that reflect the character and history of this wonderful neighborhood. And our concern is that approving this proposal to rezone 133 Dufferin Ave for use as a medical clinic could change that and set a precedent that could open the door for more clinics, offices, or other non-residential uses to follow, permanently altering the character of this historic residential street. You know, we've already seen this happening along the neighboring Brant Ave, where one exception after another has slowly transformed a residential street into a stretch of professional services. And there are many suitable and unoccupied commercial spaces available across Brantford right now, including in the community along Brant Ave and Morrell Street, that are already zoned and equipped for medical or professional uses. While, as some of the councilors have already mentioned, what we're lacking in right now is residential housing. I truly believe that in the midst of a housing crisis, every home that we preserve really matters. It's also been concerning to the residents that extensive renovations and tenant evictions have already taken place at 133 Dufferin months before any approval. This has given the impression that the decision has already been assumed. And it's left many residents scratching their heads, questioning whether the community's input will truly be evaluated and respected in this process. And as the building's owner has stated, if the reason for locating their business at 133 Dufferin is financial, that they can't afford to open it elsewhere, then why take on such a huge financial risk before knowing if the proposal will be approved? So before you vote today, I would just ask you to imagine if this were your own neighborhood. You know, what if a medical clinic were approved next door to your house, right? How would that change the character of your street? How would it impact the value of your home's property? We all want Brantford to grow in a way that's responsible and consistent with its planning vision, but we also want community input to matter. Right? Even if a proposed project ticks all the boxes, the requirement boxes, we shouldn't assume approval. Community concerns and input needs to be taken into account. And so for this reason, I, along with hundreds of other residents in the Homedale neighborhood, respectfully ask you to reject this rezoning proposal and help us preserve the residential character of Dufferin Ave for generations to come. This decision has been placed in your hands, and we hope that your decision will reflect that community input matters. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of our community's concerns today. And thank you for your service.
Thank you, Katie. We do have Councillor Celeste who has a question for you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for coming. Katie, we've been corresponding throughout this process. I believe you were heading up the a petition.
Yes.
Is that been submitted?
I believe the petition has been submitted, yes.
Okay. I haven't seen it. Can you tell me the number of signatures you have on that petition opposing?
Yeah, quick last scan, it was well over, let me see, it was, on this particular petition was 230 signatures. And then we also have another petition that was submitted. I'm not sure of the numbers. Ed House, who's another resident, can speak to the numbers on that petition. But 230 signatures on the petition that we submitted.
Okay, thank you. And I think Mr. House is speaking later on in the order. So we'll get that number from him. Thank you, Katie. And thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
I believe our clerk has comments on the petition.
Through the chair, if you review your comments package that was circulated yesterday, the cover page of the petition was circulated in accordance with our petition policy.
Okay, Katie, I don't appear to have any other questions for you. Thank you very much. We'll be looking at this item shortly. Up next is Edward House. We have a visual aid. So Edward, you'll have 10 minutes if you would mind speaking, stating your name and address. If you push the stop button on the microphone when it lights up red, you're live. And just a reminder, you have 10 minutes inclusive of questions of this committee.
All right, thanks very much. So I do have a visual aid with me there today. That is a visual representation of the opposition in our neighborhood. With social media and so on, I'm sure we could have got thousands of signatures, but they would not be important. There's 301 people represented in our petition. Most of them fall within our neighborhood there, mostly between BCI and the river and Brand Avenue and down to Wilkes. My name is Edward House and I live at 119 Dufferin Avenue. I've lived there for 13 years with my wife Charlene, and now over the course of 13 years, we've added 3 girls to our family. All of them were born at 119 Dufferin in our bedroom. And I want to say as well as Katie did, that I certainly do endorse what Jody Brown is trying to offer in our neighborhood. Most of the people who live at 119 Dufferin access mental health currently. I have a daughter who's 11 who has severe OCD. It's crippling. She has an aversion to germs, and a year ago, basically, she wasn't able to attend school. With the help of counselors at Green Valley Counseling, she's been able to turn that around, and she's running cross country this morning. I also see a counselor at Brantford Mental Health, and I see a social worker who helps me manage my family with someone with OCD. As well, my middle child also sees the same counselor, also, so that we can help navigate that. So obviously, mental health is crucial to Brantford, but I don't see that this property at 133 Dufferin is really a solution to that. I'll tell you a bit about my petition. That we put a petition online when we got our notices in our mailboxes, and we were getting about 100 signatures every 24 hours. We did that through the Homedale Neighborhood Association. I posted it there, but they took that petition down because they thought it was unfair and that somehow they were being biased by allowing us to have that there. So it was taken down. So I started a new petition with Katie Miller, who you saw via Zoom, and it was through the JOT form and also through a handwritten petition. And this is the result. So it really became a door-to-door thing. I went from St. Paul towards BCI, and you can see that once you knock on doors and tell people the facts about what's really going on, I've read everything that's available through the city. There was a lot of people who were against this. The total number was 301. There were 72 handwritten, and the balance were from people using their phones to access that. A couple of things have been said. One is that, that these 2 units that are being removed from the housing market won't be a huge impact. Well, I'd like you to tell that to Peter Tiller, who no longer lives at 133 Dufferin. He now lives in Mount Pleasant, and he pays twice the rent that he paid at 133 Dufferin. His rent at 133 Dufferin was $1,080.50. In order to move forward, he's had to draw from his pension to move forward with his monthly expenses. So he was certainly impacted. There's 2 children who live at 133 Dufferin beside a park. And now, of course, they've had to move out of the neighborhood because they can't afford to rent there. A year ago in July, I had to call the police because there was someone trying to live in my treehouse. We have a treehouse on my property, and there was a gentleman who was sleeping there because he had nowhere else to go. So certainly we have a housing crisis in the city of Brantford. I believe that a reasonable vacancy rate in Brantford the goal is 3%. Our goal is moving towards 2030. One of our goals in the city's plan is to maintain existing housing. We are removing 2 units instead of maintaining existing housing. We have a housing crisis in Brantford. We probably have a mental health crisis in Brantford as well, but what is being offered at 133 Dufferin does not solve that. What is being offered at 133 Dufferin is a paid for service operation. All right, it's going to cost, I don't know what they charge there, but it's going to cost $170 an hour to see a therapist there. A lot of people who require mental health are not going to be able to access that. 133 Dufferin is a house. Jody Brown and her husband bought a house in 2017, I believe. It's a perfect house. It is within walking distance of a number of schools. If you're going to choose a place for a house, it's perfect. It's 800 meters from Lansdowne Public School. It's 270 meters from Christ the King. It's 750 meters from BCI. It's 400 meters from École Dufferin. It's 1.6 kilometers, which is within walking distance of St. John's College. And it's 650 meters from Ross McDonald's school. If you want to make mental health accessible to the people in our neighborhood, you don't have to look any further than Jody Brown's existing counseling service on Brant Avenue. From 133 Dufferin, it takes 4 minutes to walk to her current location. We may have a mental health crisis in Brantford, but we do not have a shortage of psychotherapy. If you wanted to see a psychotherapist today, you could do that at Aware and Aligned. You could do that at Green Valley Counseling. You could do that at Brant Mental Health on McMurray. You could do that at Saltmarsh on Brant Avenue. Within 2 weeks, you could do that at Roots and Bloom, although they only have 1 counselor. And today you can see someone at Pathways to Hope. There is not a psychotherapy shortage in Brantford, and there are a number of them that are within walking distance of the address. My interpretation of what's going on is this. Jody Brown did not choose 133 Dufferin Avenue for a mental health clinic. She chose it as an apartment building to rent to tenants. What has chosen this is the economy. The economy has changed since 2017. Interest rates have gone up, and it's more difficult to operate when you have tenants that only pay $1,000 a month in rent. Now, certainly, I don't want to see any financial hardships for anyone, but if this is no longer a viable property for renting, then it shouldn't be the balance of the neighborhood that has to pay the difference. I live across the street. My side porch looks at this building, and I know that my property value will drop the moment it opens. I did mention about Peter having to move out to Mount Pleasant. I would also point out that it seems to me that reading his N13 for his eviction, that perhaps it was not done in good faith. The box that has been checked off is I intend to convert the rental unit or the residential complex to a non-residential use. That, of course, is not accurate. Peter's apartment is being renovated as we speak. I got to meet a lot of nice people during the petitioning. I want to read a letter from John Blaha, and I would urge you to look at today's agenda. He's really dug in deep with his work into bylaws. The planning justification report for 133 Dufferin Avenue is proven to be unjust. the agent clearly tries to embellish the proposal by using incorrect bylaws and dimensions of the property. There are too many errors in quoting Brantford's bylaws for this to be an oversight. It would be a shame to let these statements throughout the report be ignored. In my personal opinion, not included in my letters, changing one property on Dufferin Avenue would open the door to changing a quiet neighborhood into a business-filled area for the future, the beginning of a new Brant Avenue. As elected city council members and municipal employees, it's your obligation to protect Brantford's bylaws and vote to reject this application. John Blaha. Thank you.
And there's 30 seconds left. I have no questions for you, Mr. House. Oh, sorry, Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you for coming. What do you have there? You have a map or something there? Could you show us what that is or tell us what that is?
Let's not the neighborhood, not the entire board, obviously, but this is the area that I focused on. So.
If you don't use the mic.
You have to use the
Use the mic,
microphone.
people at home can hear you. Sorry about that.
I should have brought someone to hold it up for me. So this is a map of the neighborhood. It basically goes from BCI and it comes down to just past Lansdowne School.
Okay, so are those red pins all where you had people sign petitions at the idea?
Yeah, so these are all constituents. These are all voting constituents who signed the petition. We had a number of signatures outside of the area. So, I mean, we had people on Alonzo Street, we had people on Frank Elm Street, but everyone else there, the majority, the lion's share is between BCI and the river and between Brant Avenue and Wilkes.
Okay, thank you.
So we put out flyers there and some people signed it based on that. The one with heavy population here, I did a door knocking campaign there.
Mr. House,
Okay,
we've
thank you.
exceeded the 10-minute
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Before we move forward, our next delegate will be Kristen and Michael Bogner. But I do want to make sure that we are speaking directly to the application that's before us, and we are not speaking to the business or the financials of the applicant. Okay? So I will introduce Kristen and Michael Bonner. I'll have you state your name and address, and you have 10 minutes.
My name is Kristen Bugner. Oh, ready? Kristen Bugner. I reside at 75 Dufferin Ave. I'm a licensed home builder, a real estate salesperson, and the vice president of the Brantford Home Builders Association. I've worked in construction for over 15 years and my husband nearly 30. I grew up in this neighborhood and have renovated many historic homes, all of which have the same goal of maintaining and enhancing their heritage. Choosing to reside here in a home built in 1886 with my husband and 3 children, I believed this neighborhood and its history would be protected by thoughtful city planning. I'm here to oppose the zoning bylaw amendment for 133 Dufferin Avenue, which would allow a medical clinic. While I support better access to healthcare, this use is not compatible with the residential nature of Dufferin Avenue. This proposal also goes against the intent of the city's official plan, which directs commercial and institutional uses to properly zoned areas. Upholding consistent zoning ensures fairness for residents, builders, and investors, and protects the character that makes our neighborhood so valued. Once exceptions like this are granted, they open the door for more commercial uses to follow, eroding the balance that residents and city planners have worked hard to maintain. As a builder in a housing crisis, we have a calling from the province to build any residential housing to support our city's growth, not take them away. From a construction perspective, the newly installed recycled asphalt driveway will only erode over time, creating debris on a sidewalk with cars coming and going, making a hazard for children on their scooters and students from the School for the Blind who walk the block daily as part of their mobility training. As a real estate salesperson, I believe any commercial buildings in our residential neighborhood decrease the value of all of our properties and are only to the benefit of the owner. If it weren't for our strong Homedale community, the Dufferin tennis courts would be housing today and BCI would have been torn down. This neighborhood has always stood up to protect what matters. I respectfully urge council to uphold the existing zoning and preserve the integrity and history of Dufferin Avenue.
Okay, Kristen, I don't have any questions for you, so I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, I'll welcome Carl Broderick. You guys are gonna get sick of hearing me, but name and address, and then you have 10 minutes inclusive of questions.
Okay, thank you. Hear me okay? Good morning, Chair, committee, members. My name is Carl Broderick. I live at 120 Dufferin Avenue, which is within eyeshot of the property in question. I'm here to speak in opposition of the proposed rezoning. And I'd like to put a few things in context. But first off, I would like to address one comment that was made. I believe it was in slide 2 of the applicant's PowerPoint. Would mention no changes to the exterior. And by virtue of tearing down the carports and the deck up top of the carport would constitute changes to the exterior, in my opinion. So I also want to put things in context that's been mentioned many times, but my objection has nothing to do with mental health treatment or services being proposed in the mentioned area or the applicant's application. Mental health is vital. And denying this application has no negative impact whatsoever on the access to mental health services in Brantford. So I would like to see it not confuse the issue with that context. This is strictly a matter of land use, zoning integrity, and heritage protection. And I see this application that serves private commercial interests and doesn't serve the public at large. I also view this as spot zoning, where we talk about precedents, and it starts with one and then it goes from there. But looking at this from a spot zoning perspective, I don't see that being consistent with Brantford's official plan and long-term planning, especially for an area like Dufferin, which is populated with heritage houses. I think allowing the exception would set a dangerous precedent, inviting further commercial encroachment into a heritage district. This is important because planning credibility and community trust depends on enforcing stable, predictable zoning. The city's framework should be focused on protecting established neighborhoods, not weaken them through ad hoc rezoning. Dufferin, as most people know, the Dufferin area, is one of the most historic residential corridors in Brantford. I moved to Brantford in 2018, and I ended up purchasing my property in 2019. I specifically chose this property because of its unique character. It's quiet, tree-lined streets, heritage homes, and I invested very heavily in restoring my property to maintain the consistency with the neighborhood. I think converting this property would introduce more congestion. The parking itself, if you look at the design of the parking in the application, it is not a free-flowing movement of vehicles. It's jamming multiple vehicles onto a confined space, which would force more shuffling of cars and more resemble a car lot than an area consistent with the property surrounding the area. So I mentioned before, I have invested heavily in restoring this with the expectation. I've invested very heavily in restoring my property with the expectation of the integrity would remain intact in the area. And I'm very concerned that's not the case. We talked a little bit, or previous speakers have talked about commercial property vacancies versus residential vacancies. We all acknowledge there's a housing crisis in the city and elsewhere. Well, why would we renew or reduce housing when it's not necessary? And it's not going to serve anybody else's interests except for one individual. Every residential unit matters in the city. Removing 3 or removing 2 or removing 1 has an impact. It also has a significant impact on the people that were displaced, as Mr. House stated. There's also no need for a commercial space. You can walk a short distance, Brand Avenue, St. Paul Avenue, Colburn Street, numerous vacant, underused commercial buildings in the downtown area. There's no planning or justification for converting residential units in this area, given that there's ample commercial vacancies available. I think revitalization efforts should focus on exiting commercial corridors, not dismantling stable residential ones. I'm also somewhat concerned about the livability concerns. Proposed parking, I feel, is far too constrained. We already see a lot of people parking on the streets who are using the park, which the park is fantastic. I'm really proud to see what the city has done with the park adjacent to this property, and it gets a lot of use. But it also increased a lot of traffic and parking traffic, which there's already issues in that area. You could really see it when people are using basketball court to tennis courts. But I think that's okay because it's consistent with a residential neighborhood where you're seeing children out playing. And I see our tax dollars going to really good use. For the investment made there, that park is used extensively. And I think that's fantastic. So concluding, I think this rezoning proposal is unnecessary and incompatible for a heritage area. It will reduce housing, increase traffic, damage the existing heritage area, set a precedent for others to quickly follow. And we all know that once the whole word of precedent means one thing, right? So once it starts, it's tough to put the brakes on it, or it's like putting toothpaste back in the tube. The only beneficiary, in my opinion, is a private property owner, not the broader community. I respectfully urge members, council to deny the zoning application and focus on maintaining the area as it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have no questions for you from the committee. And we are going to break for 5 minutes for a quick refreshment break.
Thank you. We'll call this meeting back to order. And we'll be continuing with some registrants that we do have. The next individuals that we have up is Monica and Tony Van Spiker. So Monica, just turn the microphone on, state your name and address for the record, and then the floor is yours for 10 whole minutes. There you go.
Good morning. My name is Monica Van Spiker. Along with my husband and 2 children, we live at 117 Dufferin Avenue, which is just around the corner from 133 Dufferin Ave. I'm here to once again voice our strong opposition to the proposed rezoning of 133 Dufferin Avenue. I'm pretty sure I'm going to echo most of the things that have already been said. Firstly, of course, one of our main concerns is the traffic and the safety. The property is sitting on an already very busy corner between the traffic of all the schools in the area, not to mention the tractor trailer traffic that runs up and down St. Paul all day and night. The newly renovated beautiful Dufferin Park, which is also short on parking, all that parking spills over and all that traffic. And now we're looking to put a property with active traffic in and out of a parking spot right on that corner. It's a little bit concerning. Equally important, and this is interesting because this time last year, the Heritage Committee did a lot of work trying to designate the entire neighborhood as heritage. So it's a little bit difficult to understand how we are now gone from designating the entire neighborhood as heritage to putting in to rezoning properties to be commercial. If you have been to the neighborhood, you probably noticed how much effort, care, not to mention money, goes into all the properties and preserving their character and to ensuring that they fit with the nature of the neighborhood by people who have either moved back to the neighborhood or who have been there their entire lives, or even people, we're new to Brantford, we've been there for 13 years. And it was very easy to notice that this is a very special neighborhood, and a neighborhood that cares about the character of it. I'm going to keep this short, and I do want to reiterate what Katie said when she opened. This is not an opposition to progress or health services. Those are all very much needed, but this is a problem with where this is going to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. We have no questions for you. Up next, I have Mark Robson. Hi, Mark. Name and address. When the microphone lights up red, you are live. 10 minutes. Just push the button. I think there's 2 buttons there, so
I'll try that.
50-50. There you go.
I'm Mark Robson. I live at 88 Dufferin Avenue. I've been there for 8 years. I'd like to not reiterate what's been discussed so far, but approach psychiatric psychotherapy exploration of the treatment of what that service can provide. One thing that 2 therapists can do in the basement, which is a large space, is they can run an anger management clinic that's been directed to them from the courts, usually 100% men, for domestic abuse and violence.
Sorry, Mark, I have to interrupt because I need you to speak directly to the application that's before us.
Well, yes, I don't support the rezoning of this property. Dufferin Avenue was designated the most historically intact street in Canada by the Real Estate Association, and that house is not representing any of our heritage. I'm worried about who's going to use the services and what danger that will influence in our community. You cannot guarantee that anybody's going to take their medication. I'm in the social services psychiatric field myself, so I know what can happen. I don't
Sorry,
support
Mark.
it. I don't support it.
Understood.
And,
I need you to
I
speak
think we
to
need
the
to look at other
application.
points of view. Yes, the application, yes. Well, you said that the definition was specific in psychotherapy, but that's never been addressed here. Is that not part of the application, which was presented today?
The application is allowing for a medical clinic,
Psychotherapy, which hasn't been
a
defined here.
rezone.
I think we need to know a little bit more about what that means. That's all I'm saying. I don't think that's been addressed. I didn't want to reiterate what my neighbors have said. I agree with everything that's been said. And I think that it's valid. If you don't want to discuss what I think is the vulnerability in servicing that population beside the park where unattended children are, I mean, I can't change that, but it's a definite issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Marie Fanjoy. Oh, there's questions for you.
Okay, sure.
Counselor Carpenter.
Thank you. Yeah, so what you were addressing is the zoning application is for psychotherapy to be on this site.
Yes.
And what you were trying to address is the kind of psychotherapy that you're concerned about.
Yes, because it can be changed. It can be, there's a large room in the basement. You can do anger management for 30 men who are there for domestic abuse. And there's no difficulty doing that. You can treat patients with schizophrenia who don't take their medication. 2 men were shot and killed in Hamilton
And
because men didn't take their
thank you, but
medication.
how do you know this? Is it because you have experience with the?
I worked at the CAMH as a
Okay.
student for 7 months, and I have a degree in psychology related to these types of things. I've worked as volunteers on phone lines for 5 years in London. So I've been
Okay.
in that community my whole life.
Thanks for the clarification. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And
Counselor Van Tilburg, did I see your hand up? Or?
No, that was just to get your attention, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
well, thank you very much.
Marie Fanjoy. Nope. Good morning, Marie Fanjoy, and I live at 55 Chestnut Avenue. Just around the corner from the subject property. As everyone, in accordance with everyone who's in the gallery today, I too am not in favor of the zoning bylaw amendment at 133 Dufferin. And as it's been pointed out by other people, I agree. And my main objection is that the amendment is with respect to the loss of 2 affordable rental units at a time when the city is in a housing crisis. The new owner of the building purchased 133 Dufferin knowing it was designated residential, and there's no need to lose 2 residential units to a medical clinic when there are plenty of commercially zoned properties available in the city. The City of Brantford Council Priorities 2023 to 2026 lists create a vision and strategy for managing and developing affordable housing as one of its top priorities. Supporting this bylaw amendment would mean the loss of 2 good-sized apartments units, which is contrary to Council's affordable housing priority. The planning department, they pointed out section 9 of the report that Alan Waterfield, he references the provincial planning statement 2024. What the report doesn't say is that the vision of the PPS speaks to increasing the supply and mix of housing options, addressing the full range of housing affordability needs. So in reality, this proposed change of use runs counter to the provincial planning statement 2024. The 2 sections of the policy that the planner references, including 2.16, states the application supports the achievement of complete communities. But what it doesn't say is that section 2.1.6A talks about a mix of housing options. Again, the word housing keeps coming up in the PPS. And then it goes on to list other land uses, none of which includes a medical clinic.
So the medical clinic might be referenced in the official plan, but it's not in the provincial planning statement. The planning proposal also says it's consistent with policy 2.9.1 of the PPS, which states that the planning authority shall plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions through transit supportive complete communities. Does the current use of 133 Dufferin as 3 residential units not also support reduced greenhouse gas emissions since it's on a bus route? So that reasoning is a wash. In conclusion, the city planning is focusing on the medical clinic being a neighborhood supporting use without any consideration to the loss of the residential units on the street, a street that is 100% residential. Why is the neighborhood supporting use trumping the original and intended residential designation of this building? It shouldn't. 133 Dufferin Ave should remain as 3 residential units in alignment with the City Council's housing priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. We do have one question for you, Councillor Carpenter.
Hi, Marie. Thanks. Nice to see you again. So basically, your objection to this application is the loss of housing and our policy about the shortage of housing that we have, but our policy to not reduce housing stock.
Yes, correct. It's counter, it doesn't align with the priorities of this council. And, you know, they say, okay, 2 units won't make a difference, but if 2 units here, 2 units there, it adds up. And I just think it's wrong. It's a residential street and it should maintain 100% residential status.
Okay. And you mentioned about concern about the units already being vacant, so already being vacant to do renovations ahead of having any zoning change. That was a concern as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, the owner is saying that the clinic itself hasn't been renovated, but I don't know anything about that.
But the
so.
units have been vacated. Okay. Thank you, Marie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. One more in the queue, Councillor McCreary.
Welcome.
Hey, Dan.
I wonder if you could elaborate on what other folks have expressed as concerns about the impact on traffic.
Yeah, I mean, St. Paul and Dufferin is an incredibly busy intersection, and the driveway going into this property is probably 30 meters from the actual light standards, and traffic is yeah. I mean, there's tractor trailers that go down St. Paul on a regular basis, and the park is right. I mean, it is for traffic to come in and out of that property on a continuous basis will be, I think, very problematic. And other people have pointed that out too.
With respect to the number of cars that have historically been in that driveway, would it be safe to assume there's 3 or 4 with the occasional visitor? Historically, I mean.
Yeah, historically, that's what I've observed. Yeah, and there was a carport there. I think there was maybe 3 or 4. Yeah, you're right. That would be about it.
Would you care to venture a guess as to how many entrances and egresses there would be per day, given that there would be several employees and a number of clients visiting on an hourly basis? Would you think it would be more?
Oh, it'd be significantly more. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you very much. There's no one else waiting to ask you a question, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so I will open up the floor to members of the public who have not necessarily registered in advance. So I don't have anyone else that has reached out and said they were going to speak. So if there is anyone online who would like to speak, just use the raise hand function on Zoom and I will call upon you to speak. But is there anyone here in council chambers that would like to speak either for or against this application? So you can pick a microphone, turn it on. You'll have 10 minutes inclusive of questions. And if you could please state your name and your address for the minutes.
Kim DeFrancesco, 15 Maple Avenue. Maple is just around the corner from 133 Dufferin. I'm quite passionate about this application for rezoning because I've lived in the neighborhood since 1992. And raised my children in the neighborhood. They went to Dufferin School. They went to BCI. We fought to keep BCI there. Like, there's a real history. And the neighborhood of Dufferin has a real history. Everyone appreciates the heritage of the neighborhood. And it's always been residential. It's been residential from, BCI on the one end to, BCI on the one end to Lansdowne School on the other end. And then, the children from the blind school come with their workers to learn how to walk with a stick and to navigate neighborhoods. So the intersection where the 133 Dufferin is a very busy intersection. If you're there in the morning when the kids are walking to school, I know that I see Kristen go by with her kids with all their scooters, like the whole neighborhood. The kids all go to all the different schools, including St. John's. And it's, they also go to the park, and they all are by the driveway of 133 Dufferin that is going to become much busier from 11 till 7. I do dispute whether or not there will just be one or two of the therapists working, because the counselors working, because with many things, when it becomes busy, and then there will be even more people searching for parking spaces. I feel for the people who live at this intersection. Currently, I know that Ed will be looking across the road from his porch to see the comings and goings. And, neighborhoods are sleepy when they're residential, but not so sleepy when things start to change. There's real pressure in a neighborhood to keep it the neighborhood that it is. The urban landscape does change, and it kind of seems that this hasn't happened in our neighborhood because we're so passionate about where we live. So I'm kind of rambling here, but I think it's a real shame to change the zoning from residential to medical use. From one end to the other on St. Paul up to the train tracks is all residential, and there is no commercial space on Dufferin, and it should remain so.
Thank you so much, Kim. Councillor McCreary has a question for you.
Welcome, Kim.
Thank you.
Could you elaborate a little bit more with respect to your concern about the sidewalk, the entrance and exits of staff and clientele traffic, especially at school rush hour around?
Sure, yeah.
Please.
At that intersection, especially, there is very little boulevard. The sidewalk is pretty much right on the road, and you can see that on all four corners. And the big trucks are coming down all the time, and it's a busy intersection. That there is turning lanes on Dufferin to go towards St. Paul, headed north, and it's actually, I'm surprised that they don't have crossing guards there right now, because it's a very busy intersection. And then there's parking too, not close to the intersection, but it's in front of all the residential houses. So yeah, I'm concerned that it's just going to be too busy, because it's only, as Marie said, a few, not too far from the intersection that the access to the parking lot would be. You could see when the workers were working that they were having trouble getting in and out because it's just too busy.
Especially if one's driving in and backing out.
Yeah, that's just it. Yeah. There's no parking on that side of the street. So whoever parks to go to the clinic would have to park in front of the houses on St. Paul.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Kim.
Thanks.
I do see a speaker online, Mike Watson, who's looking to speak.
Mr. Watson, if you can please accept the prompt on your screen.
Hello?
We can hear you. Mike, if you can just, again, restate your name and your address, and then you'll have 10 minutes inclusive of questions.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Michael Watson. I live at 224 Dufferin Ave. I'm here to state my strong opposition to the application. I've lived in the area now for 12 years. Really love the Homedale area and the community that is here. I have children that attend school here in the neighborhood, and prior to living on Dufferin Ave, I lived on an offshoot of Dufferin Ave. Such is the kind of nature of the neighborhood. It's once you're here, I think it's very difficult to leave, but because of the community and the setup here. So I think I just wanted to articulate that many of the voices that have expressed opposition today have, in my view, very well-rounded and grounded opposition. My own opposition is really grounded in a few different things. The first is just the traffic hazard that I believe this will create based on it being on the corner and the way that intersection currently operates. It is very busy. I used to live on an offshoot up the hill there, and many times walking my daughter to school, cars would attempt to turn right on red without any regard for who was already on the crossing walk. And I believe that a business like this will invite people that are unfamiliar with the area to frequent it and to potentially make an already hazardous situation even more hazardous. I can also imagine that the difficulty of cars that might approach the business from the south side of St. Paul, attempting to cut across the traffic, which again is right next to the playground. Anyone that's not familiar with the area, the car park that's proposed is literally adjacent to the playground, across from that busy road. I also just believe that the park will inevitably, like the Dufferin Park playground and the parking area there, will inevitably become the overflow for when folks don't want to deal with the hassle of trying to park in, I think it's already been articulated in some of the oppositions, a very tight area for the number of cars proposed, which will mean that patients inevitably have to cut through the playground. It is a direct shot from the parking lot to the property via the children's playground. And again, I don't think that's a situation that we should be inviting. I also believe that there are plenty of commercial places available in the city of Brantford. And as you've heard from many of the neighborhood constituents, there is no community desire for this type of business to be located on this street. So I don't have anything else to offer other than that, and I'll happily turn my time back.
Thank you very much, Mike. And I have no questions from committee for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else looking to speak towards this application? I legally have to ask 3 times, so I'm going to continue. Is there anybody in council chambers or online who would like to speak to this application? He's already spoke. I'm sorry, we can't have duplicate speakers. No, unfortunately. Anybody else in council chambers who would like to speak to this issue? We have sliding in at the last minute. Good job. So just have a seat, name, address, 10 minutes for you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Caroline Owen, and I live at 69 Dufferin Ave. And I grew up in the area, and I've probably been there for 52 years on that street. And we moved there because of the area. Mine as a child, I didn't really realize at the time how fortunate we were. That street is a community, and in most communities, you look to support each other. And what we're thinking here, and we're hoping as councillors, that you would consider a community, and I don't know how many streets there are in communities that are just residential, keeping them safe, keeping them communities together, pulling people together. And if people working for the city would maybe go there on a busy time, maybe at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when schools are letting out, 5 o'clock when the kids are at the park. When I think of the parking lot there, there've usually been about 2 or 3 cars there. And knowing that it's going to have four psychologists working there, plus you've got the people living upstairs. I don't know how the parking lot works to support that business. So I have 2 points really, to keeping a residential area residential. There are probably very few that are like that now in our city. And the other thing is the traffic is crazy there. And the last thing you really want is something to happen to kids and families as they're going to and fro. It is a very busy location. And when I think of the parking lot, if you have 4 people working there, 2 above, okay, that's 6 people, then you've got the clients coming in. I don't see how anything can happen safely in there. That's just a logical view of my point. So I'm just hoping maybe if you can go and have a look and be in that area during that time, you'll get to feel what it's like for the safety of the kids, the people that live in the area, and families. It would be great to physically be there and see how it works and the magic in the area. Thank you very much for listening.
We have a question for you from Councillor McCreary.
Thanks for coming in and putting your hand up to come up and speak. It's sometimes not easy for folks to do that. Would it be safe to assume that your primary concern is with respect to the entrance and parking?
Actually, that's my second concern. My first one is that a residential community can remain residential.
Yeah.
And we all do work hard and we look after each other. When you start turning that into another office and another office, it's one thing to have a business office, a home office, where the only one person is in there and they're working. That's, we're all open to doing that. But to have a business in the case where you've got clients coming and going and not just one, it changes the whole. And it does, it opens the doors. Because I remember Brand Ave was just the odd business, and now most houses are business now. It changes. You don't want to live on Brand Ave.
You mentioned you've been there how long?
52 years.
2 years?
52.
52. So would you remember Gil Pascoe's medical office in his house? Dufferin and Morel?
No, I
Okay.
don't remember that.
That was it. That was a use which was phenomenal, and everybody that lived in the neighborhood took their kids to him because he was a pediatrician. This is far different from that. Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. With respect to the loss of housing stock, you didn't touch on that. So you lose a couple of housing units here. What's your feeling about that?
I feel it's sad. I know some people have actually on the off streets have added a few apartments and including more people, which is important. And when you take, as Marie said, you take 2 away here, you take another 2 away, it all adds to the whole, especially it's a residential area. And people will benefit from being close to the park, the schools, shopping, everything is close.
Right. Again, thank you for speaking today.
Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
Caroline, thanks for coming. I want to touch on something that you said that I don't think has been spoken about. You talked about how the neighborhood is a community and how everybody is sort of always takes care of each other. And the community is of one mind when it comes to this application. Could you speak a little bit, elaborate a little bit about that, about how the community works together on those issues and others?
Actually, our community is very unique. We have people that don't even know each other, but through the children at the park, we look out for each other. When we see things going on that aren't right, we'll speak up. We support kids. If kids are in trouble, we help them. You get to know people. And from one end of the street to the other, we have socials getting together. If people can't pick up their children at school, they help each other because they can all, walk to each other, help each other. And as our children are growing up, they've come back and they've said they've never seen or heard kids talk about a neighborhood like ours.
And you said you've been there 52 years. That's
52.
Yeah, 52. So that's existed for the 52 years that you've been there. You've seen that kind of approach with the neighborhood since you've been there.
I have. I was a child, being a young adult, and then as a young parent. And it continues. And actually now we're seeing the young families coming in. It is the best feeling to have a mixed community of all different ages, different walks of life. It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Carolyn, there's no more questions for you. Thank you so much. Perhaps there's someone who wants to ask a question on behalf of a friend. No? Yeah, you can come up, please. Yes. So the usual name and address, you'll have 10 minutes inclusive of questions. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Tanya McLean, and I live at 41 Slater Street. I moved to this community with my wife, and we currently right now have a daughter, and we've been living in this community for 12 years. We currently right now feel like this community is home. I had my in-laws live on Dufferin Ave at 139 Dufferin Ave. They have recently moved out of this area. But the reason why we live in this community is because it was family. I do have my sister-in-law and brother-in-law living on Lincoln. So when we were looking for a home, we basically told our real estate agent that we wanted to find a certain area. So when we found our home, we go for walks, and when we went by 133 Dufferin, unfortunately, it was an eyesore. When you go by any other houses on Dufferin, they're beautiful, historical, but unfortunately, the owners of that building, it was not pleasant. So I'm just going to give some information that one of our neighbors also had, is that lastly, the current building owner for the last 12 years has poorly maintained the sidewalks since we moved to Homedale in 2018. They're rarely salted or removed the snow from their sidewalks every winter. I called bylaw several times as it was impossible to push a stroller through the way to school, and I witnessed several seniors struggling to walk their grandchildren to school. As they were slipping on ice, bylaw was not able to do anything to address it because the 24-hour for fresh snow and the clocking restarted. The request to change to start a medical clinic is concerning, as the current owners didn't seem to be concerned about their large corner lot, sidewalks, or the safe transportation to school for children. So this is a concern that we do have, because of course they were discussing about disability and things like that, as well as the sidewalks, bringing in disabled people or people that do have that. And of course, you did see that the fencing and everything like that was removed from their property, but that has been taken, or that was dilapidated. So our concern is that unfortunately, this building has kind of been in disarray and kind of has been an eyesore in our community. What is to say that this is going to be now changed into a medical building and is going to be in disarray? So that's kind of a concern that a lot of our community members do have as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya. Seeing no questions. Are there any other speakers in council chamber who would like to come up? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to move forward from the public portion. The applicant will now have 5 minutes to come up and provide clarification on perhaps any questions or comments that they had heard during the public portion of this.
Hi. I just want to say that I listened to everything that was said today, and I very much want to say that I'm hearing what's being said and that I respect and value their feedback and their concerns. I think that it's that there is a lot of misinformation that has been spread, but I also understand that a lot of that misinformation has come from definite fear and not wanting change. And that for me makes a lot of sense. And I really do love the representation of the community that has been presented. And unfortunately, I've not, even though I am a property owner in that area, I actually own 2 properties. I have not been included in that care because of this application. And some of the concerns that have been addressed, we have really done our due diligence to make sure that we are addressing to make it as safe as possible. I'm also a mother, and I'm also in the field of mental health. And so I do feel very passionate about making it a safe and beautiful place for people to go. In my mind, I was hoping that this would be a beautiful addition to an already beautiful neighborhood. It is going to make our services accessible to the neighborhood. Many people that already use it, and even the blind school, a lot of people from the blind school actually do use our services. We do offer a fair amount of free services. I have students that offer free services, and we also have a fund that funds children so that they can have free services at our clinic. So it is addressing the mental health crisis on a different level than maybe some of the other places that were mentioned. I do want to make sure that everything that happens there in terms of legitimacy and the parking and all of that do meet the bylaw or the zoning requirements. And that's why we went ahead and did the traffic study and all those other pieces. The renovations that have happened have only taken place on the top floor because we needed to redo the whole building. The building was in disarray, as people have mentioned, not in good service, and not many people are very familiar maybe with what it looks like to own a rental property, but you're not allowed in many circumstances to go on and change or direct people to live in a certain way. They have rights, and they have to be respected. Unfortunately, that due to some circumstances, the place did get pretty run down. My goal was to meet the need of the mental health and maintain some residential, and I was hoping that that would support all of this. I think that the thing that is really most important for me is just really saying that I hear all of the concerns, and that I hope that, that's why I got a professional, Rishika, to help me with this. And we've been in constant contact. I've been hands-on for this whole thing to make sure that I know exactly what's going on, and that we are making sure that we're hitting all of the key things that are required. But it's not just for me what's required. I also want to make it a safe, beautiful place for people to go, a healing space for people to use and to be an addition to the neighborhood in a good way. So that's just what I wanted to say.
I'm not sure. Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair, but I'm not sure if there's anything else for me to add. We were going to touch on some of the comments that were raised with respect to traffic and parking and exterior of the site. I believe with the owner's presence in that building itself with this proposed use will make that place much more better what it is, what has been in the last couple of years, as Jody just mentioned. Again, parking has been provided on site. There have been no concerns from a technical standpoint that were raised through the circulation of this application. Again, we heard a lot of comments about a lot of commercial spaces that are available for rent. Paying more than $5,000 plus a month for a commercial space is not a reasonable option when you own and have an option to convert that. The proposed zoning, it does meet all the provincial policy direction, which does also allow for employment and commercial uses to support these complete communities. And as such, your official plan specifically notes neighborhood supporting uses to be permitted in neighborhoods to support these communities as well. So we're seeking support from the community, so from the committee members with respect to the proposed application. Happy to answer any more questions you may have.
And we've just exceeded our 5 minutes there, but I thank you very much for providing clarification. And with that, that closes the public meeting. So we'll move forward. We do have before us item 4.1, which is the zoning bylaw amendment for 133 Dufferin Ave. I'll look for a mover and a seconder to place this on the floor for discussion. Moved by Councillor McCreary, seconded by, for discussion purposes, Councillor Sless. Thank you very much for stepping up. So I have Councillor McCreary to speak first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those watching, it's important to be moved and seconded so we can get it on the floor to discuss and hopefully defeat this today. I am broadly opposed to this for many of the reasons you folks have spoken to, but this is a planning hearing and we speak to planning issues with respect to what we're doing, what we're about to do. From my point of view, there are two reasons, two broad planning reasons not to support this. Number one, we've heard from you folks and I've seen it. I'm on that street quite often. Traffic is pretty dicey there. And I can't see adding a number of egresses and entrances on an hourly basis to an already troublesome traffic pattern, combined with the crossing of school children and kids on the way to that park. I think also City of Brantford should not be responsible for providing parking for a commercial facility. And that's exactly what would happen in this case, is that our parking would be used as a first choice, I think, for the customers coming to this facility. And secondly, we have a provincial government that has told us loudly and clearly that we are to provide housing opportunities here, a provincial government which has given us a right to duplexing every house in the city of Brantford, and in some cases adding third backyard units. So I cannot see how reducing the housing stock in this city by 2 or 3 units furthers that provincial mandate that we are so proud of being number one for in the province. So I moved it, but I do not support it. We move it and second it to deal with the issue today. Otherwise, there's a consequence to that, which we don't want to get into. So to all those who came, proponent and folks speaking against, thank you for exercising your rights and obligations as citizens.
Thank you very much. And I will note that we do have Councillor Caputo here today. He's not a member of the planning committee. So he doesn't get to vote on this because his ward mate in Ward 2 does get the vote. But he does have an opportunity to speak should he choose to use that. I don't have any. Oh, Councillor Sless.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to regurgitate everything that's been said today. I think it was spoken, and it was spoken very well by the folks that come, and it's appreciated by the committee that when you have something on your mind, you don't sit there and boil, you come out and you air it. And I think that is good. I think today was really an exercise in democracy. Everybody had their opportunity, and I think everybody expressed themselves very well. And I thank you for doing that. I'm not going to, again, as I said, I'm not going to list all the reasons why I'm not supporting this. I think it's rather apparent. We're removing housing stock. We're creating bad situations with traffic. That is a truck route going down St. Paul's to service Hartman, which the president of Hartman is actually here today. Thanks for coming, Carl. And the SC Johnson. So there's trucks going back and forth there constantly all the time, and they're always in conflict with the children. There's 3 schools on that street, and there's schools that feed into that street that aren't on the street, but they feed into it. So there's a lot of kids. Dufferin Park, we just spent a fortune on it as a city, made a beautiful park, at least from my perspective, a beautiful park. It's a gorgeous area and it's very well used. And again, this property abuts it. So you're creating, again, the conflict between kids trying to access things that they were told that where they should go and play as opposed to on the street. We're trying to get them off the street into a park, and I think we've done a good job of doing that. But getting to the park would become a challenge. There's going to be conflict constantly. So for those reasons and a host of others that I'm not going to get into, I won't be supporting it. As Councilor McCreary said, if we didn't put it on the floor, we're procedurally in a lot of trouble. So I seconded it to get it on the floor. What I think I will do here is I'll explain to you, because you folks don't deal with this every day, and we do. What happens, this committee will vote today to do whatever this committee does. That will become a recommendation that will go directly to City Council, who will actually make the final determination on this application. If it's a negative proposition that we come up with, the property owner has the right to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. You probably would know it as the Ontario Municipal Board. You can go there if you disagree with something that the city did as far as zoning goes. They have that option to do that. Anybody that's spoken here today, or anybody that comes and speaks to this item when it comes to City Council, will then have standing, and they can make delegation. I believe they can register, and they can appear at the OLT hearing and present their case and their thoughts at that time. So that's the process that's laid out. Today, what we're doing is we're making a recommendation to City Council that will be voted on at the next City Council meeting. So just to be clear, it's a little bit confusing, it's a little bit convoluted, but it's government, so I guess it should be. Okay, so thanks again for coming out, and I will not be supporting this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Carpenter, have you next?
Yes, let's talk about LPAT and the procedural rules, but I think the rules have changed. I would like the staff to tell us about what's standing. Well, first of all, the meeting for council is October 28th, so put that in your calendar if you wish to come and speak. But I would like you to explain to us the LPAT rules, because I believe the province has made changes in where the public can actually speak to issues, and I think their rights have been taken away.
So through Madam Chair to the councillor, unfortunately, that is correct. So through Bill 185, appeal rights for matters of zoning matters have been reduced. And so they're reduced to persons of special interest, as well as the property owner and municipal councils. So essentially, if council were to deny this application, the property owner may appeal to the OLT. And that would be the parties involved.
But not the residents.
Correct.
Residents don't automatically get standing, as was spoken about. That's changed. That's what I'm understanding. So I just want you to understand that process going forward. So then you might want to speak to your member of provincial parliament about that, whichever way this goes, regardless, because the applicant can go to LPAT. What I want to speak to is what Caroline spoke to earlier about the community, the neighborhood. Very impressed about how the community supports each other. A lot of neighborhoods in Brantford do just that, are just like the neighborhood your neighborhood that Carolyn talked about. And the neighborhoods are closely work with each other and help each other, and all. That's what makes Brantford a great city. So I just wanted to, but that was very impressive to know that neighborhood is like that. I know many of you from the neighborhood, many of you from other walks of life that we deal with. Very impressed with the neighborhood, what the neighborhood wants. It's this process will be difficult when and if it goes to LPAT. Thank you.
Thank you. And speaking to the planning issues, Councillor Van Tilburg.
Yeah, I appreciate all those that took time out of their day to be here this morning. Some of you, I'm sure, probably are missing a bit of a paycheck, and there's a lot of you here. That's unusual at a planning meeting. It's very unusual because it is that difficult to come out and seeing the petitions and the physical diagram brought before us with all the pins. Clearly, you represent a significantly large portion of your neighborhood that can't be here. But one thing that is clear is that this isn't an NIMBY. This is what is our neighborhood to be. And it's clear that this neighborhood is to be residential. You know, I lose housing units when developers come in and they want to build more residential. Now, we want to put more on there, and they may say to the people, you have to be evicted. We're going to knock your buildings down. We're going to put up bigger buildings and more units. I feel terrible for those people that are evicted at the time. It hurts me, and it bothers me when those buildings aren't built. But when other buildings are built, that's helping us in the housing crisis. We have residential stock on your residential neighborhood that is strictly on the street of Dufferin residential. We don't need the mission creep of a different establishment taking away residential housing when there are zoning areas open to this day, buildings open to this day, that practice can be done upon. It doesn't take away any housing stock. And literally Tuesday night, what was I talking about when I'm on the front page about the expositor? It's our housing stock. And it's been on for quite a number of years. We could have been looking at a different proposal that might have added more units onto Dufferin Ave. That's what we might have been looking at, but that's not what we're looking at. So I understand the delegates have made very clear what their concerns are. And I share those concerns. I'm not opposed to what the activity is. I'm opposed to the location. I don't think anyone's opposed to the activity. It's the location. And the location is maintain that residential stock. So I won't be supporting this. And that's it.
Great. Thank you so much. I'll say a few words and then I'll turn the mic over to Councillor Caputo, who I know has been patiently waiting for his turn to speak. And this is an interesting one because honestly, looking at it, I wouldn't have thought it would have been something that would engage the neighborhood outwardly at first. But the point of these hearings and the beauty of these hearings is that we have the opportunity to engage with the neighborhood and learn from what their thoughts are on these types of these things. So, and the community definitely showed up. The community showed up in dividends and showed, you know, they don't agree. They don't agree with what's going in here. So I have to listen to that and I have to show support for the ward councillor who's here today. And I do see both sides. And what's interesting about this is that normally we have people that are coming here to say, you know, no, don't, we don't want more housing units in a neighborhood. Don't build more units. But here we have a neighborhood that's come together and said, no, we want to maintain housing units in the middle of this housing crisis. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So I see why the residents are concerned about changing the character and the behaviors of this neighborhood. It's a strong residential neighborhood and a community. And so I don't think that what's proposed is compatible with the heritage designation of the area and the feel of the area. So I won't be supporting this on the basis that I think it offends the character of the neighborhood. I think the traffic flow will be a little bit too much, but we'll get into that more after we have our vote. So saying all that, now that everybody has spoken, I'm going to pass this off to Councillor Caputo, who will have an opportunity to address the room.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't learned anything about patience. I certainly have today. I think this is the longest I've been able to keep my mouth shut for a long time. I'm here today because I am alongside Councillor Celeste Ward, Councillor for Ward 2. And I work for the residents of Ward 2, as well as the businesses of Ward 2. And for the last couple of months, I've received plenty of emails and have responded to the majority of them, if not all of them, about where my stance was with this. I respect completely what Jody is looking to do here. She is well within her rights to have this application come through. And I respect completely that the planning department has done everything that they need to do because it falls within the parameters of the legalities of what they're doing. But with that being said, Dufferin Ave, to me, is a very treasured spot in the city. If this was an area that was under a new development, the individuals that would be purchasing homes would also be told at that point that they might be backing onto a park. They might be backing into a commercial area. They might be backing next to a convenience store, a hairdresser, and so forth. That isn't the case here. This has been a well-established, absolutely beautiful and prideful area of the city for years on top of years. And now it's going to look at having a change happen to it. And as I do respect the business, and I respect that, I am pro-business, always have been my whole life. I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in growth and development. But I also look at preserving an area. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't looking after the residents and or the businesses of this city. I am opposed to this only because of the fact that I think it takes away from what the area has always been, stood for. And when people have purchased their homes there, they weren't anticipating a change in the area that's happening here today. From a business perspective, I have spent 35 years in business. That's who I am. I understand why they're looking at this particular venture. And I understand why they're looking at that particular site because they own it. My fear, as I look at things, every decision made today always has something that has to be looked forward to. My fear is down the road that the current location that they operate in would close simply because it's not viable. It's a small spot on Grand Ave, tight parking, so forth. As a business individual, why would I be paying twice the business taxes? Why would I be paying rent? Why would I be doing all these things when I wouldn't need to? The reason for that fear is because if it was me, that's exactly what I would do. I would operate out of one spot, not two. So,
Councillor Caputo, I'm going to ask you to keep your remarks to the zoning amendment before us, not the business of the applicant.
I understand. Thank you very much. Forgive me because, again, planning does not sit down with a performer. They only look at the amendment. So that's all I had to say. Thank you for everybody for being here. This is a community that's very tight knit, and I'll do whatever I have to help support you. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a second time speaker, Councillor Carpenter, please.
Yes, I think this proposed development offends the character of the neighborhood. The neighborhood has said that, spoken loudly in opposition to that because they don't like the change in the character of the neighborhood. So, because we have to have reasons for how we vote, and I think this offends the neighborhood. I agree with that.
Seeing no further speakers, we are going to call the vote on this item. Madam Clerk?
The motion is lost on a recorded vote of 0 to 5. Those voting against, Councillor Sokoli, Celeste, McCreary, Carpenter, and Ed Tilborg.
Okay, committee, since this has failed, we do need to pass a subsequent motion as per the reasoning. So our clerk, being able to intuit what our reasons may be, will put something on the screen. We'll have an opportunity to discuss and add to that. But if you would like to put that up on the screen for us to consider as the reason why we have refused this planning application.
Through the chair, just bear with us. E-scribe is a little slow.
So we will need a mover and a seconder to get this on the floor. Moved by Councillor McCreary, seconded by Councillor Carpenter. that zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by the English Group on behalf of Jody Brown affecting the lands municipally loaned, known as 133 Dufferin, and the reasons for refusal are as follows. Number one, the medical clinic psychotherapy office is not compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Number two, the medical clinic will result in the loss of 2 dwelling units. Number three, the medical clinic will result in an increase in traffic and parking demands on the existing neighborhood. Any discussion? Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to add, as I spoke earlier, that the proposed development offends the character of the neighborhood with the change.
Sorry, was that in there?
That'd be item 4.
It's not compatible. Is it the same? One could interpret that to mean the same thing.
Yeah, I want the proposed development offends the character of the neighborhood.
So you want the wording of that one altered slightly. Okay,
It's in a list of wordings that we have that meet the
I
criteria.
understand. No, I don't think we need it as a fourth. I think it's the exact same as the first one. We're just going to change the wording to be exactly the same as what's in. Yeah. Is that okay, Councillor Carpenter?
Yes, that works. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Seeing no further discussion on the topic, we will call the vote.
The motion to refuse is carried on a recorded vote of 5-0. Those voting in favor are Councillor Scully, Celeste, Berry, Carpenter, and Van Tilburg.
Madam Clerk, you can remind me, did we vote on the minutes already? Perfect. We have no notice of motions and we have no resolutions coming forward, so this planning meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.